and we're going to call this meeting to order. We're going to call it 10:04 a.m. You guys ready over there? Okay. This is new. Apparently, I'm supposed to ask that everybody place their cellular phones on silent or vibrate during the proceedings. Also, I'll just express our hope that our other commissioner has a speedy recovery and does well. I understand he's very ill. First thing we're going to do, first order of business, is the consent agenda, which consists of the meeting minutes from last month. Now, did you say we need to wait and do those next month? Okay. So we're going to move on to the regular agenda, and we're going to start with case CA 22-01, 641 and 643 South Chadbourne Street. And we will turn that over to city staff.
Good morning, Commissioners. Rafael Alvarado, Planning. This is CA 22-01. This is a case that was tabled from last month's meeting, located at 641 and 643 South Chadbourne Street. It is in the Fort Concho neighborhood of District 3. It is part of the Central Business District. This is a revised sketch brought forward by the applicant, illustrating the colors, and I have the color materials there for you, the color swatches. I would like to add that the colors for the Old Town Historic District are custom colors, so they're not exactly what's represented in the swatches, since Sherwin-Williams doesn't carry those custom color swatches, but these are the exact colors from the Old Town Historic District guidelines. So there's a varying series of colors. The door on the left side will be green, the door on the right will be blue. The columns are going to be a white color. Then you have 2 shades of gray for the window trim and then for the building facade itself. We do have the additions of the parapets at the top. These are column detail and the front elevation documents from last month's meeting. This illustrates the south wall that has the historical mural. There will be parapets added to the entire length of that wall. However, no alterations will be done to the historic mural. These are the doors and windows as supplied by the applicant. We have a double hung window on the right. And the size for the door is going to be 6 by 8, that if you can see on the list, it's this one with the 2 dots. This is some more information about the window, its energy efficiency, and its material construction. This is all supplied by the manufacturer. An invoice for the window. These are pictures of the site. The front on the left and the historic mural is on the right. We have street views of the site, looking north and south along South Chadbourne Street. The purpose for this case is its historical overlay, and any construction done on a historically overlaid property requires a certificate of appropriateness, and staff has concluded that the additions to this building do not change the historic mural, which is the historic component of this property. Staff recommends approval of CA 22-01 for the exterior renovations at the historical properties of 641 and 643 South Chadbourne Street, with 2 conditions of approval. The first be that colors, dimensions, and materials remain consistent with the materials provided to you today. The second condition be that building permits and inspections division shall, the applicant shall come forward to the building permits and inspection division to retrieve any necessary building permits. Do the commissioners have any questions for staff?
I do. So as far as being consistent,
Oh, sorry.
the colors being consistent with historical parameters, we are now giving those presenting a list of those colors. Is that right? I understand isn't there a list
For the Old Town
of
Historic,
historical colors that's the,
only for the
consistent.
properties that are in the Old Town Historic District is there in the guidelines specific color swatches, those being the custom colors, that are the only colors that can be applied to these properties. And the colors presented in the application are part of that swatch. I believe it's the 1950s, because it breaks it down by era.
so I guess I'm a little confused about the custom coloring.
It's just a matter that it's not a color that Sherwin-Williams carries. I guess they would have to mix different colors to
But
get that.
if it's custom, is it still falling within that?
Certainly.
Ms. Wallace, I can help with that. So
Thank
the historical color palette, at the time that it was created, uses Sherwin-Williams color references here. However, this is, number one, it is only a guide, and so the overall policies are that they're generally consistent with those colors. So if they don't have the exact,
Okay.
if they have the exact same color swath, we're going to recommend approval. If they have something similar, which is what Raphael's presenting, we're still probably going to recommend approval because
Okay.
it's close enough to that overall intent.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Yes, ma'am. Obviously, if it's something that's really out there that isn't close to this, we would not recommend it. We
I thought
believe
it was
it's
more
close
rigid
enough.
than that, but so that clarifies.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
Don't you think so too?
Okay, anybody else have any more questions for staff? If not, we'll move on to public comment if there's any. There's no public comment. Is there any further discussion amongst the commissioners?
No, I appreciate staff getting us the actual colors that we can see this time. And so at this time, I'd like to make a motion for approval as stated by staff.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
A second.
Motion is second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you to the applicant for participating in the process. We appreciate that. Sorry for the delay. DD 22-0461 North Chadburn Street is our next item on the agenda.
This is DD 22-04, located at 61 North Chadburn Street. The property being 0.05 acres, mid-block along the 50s and 60s block. It's District 3 in the downtown neighborhood. The property is located in the Central Business District. This is the materials list for the proposed renovations that include facade renovations as well as renovations to the exterior to the back part of the building. We have the fiberglass doors with a mahogany wood finish. The exterior portion of the doors, that darker gray section that you see here, is going to be that cordon steel. And the applicant has provided a rusting guide illustrating that the steel is meant to rust over time and thus change color. The rest of the building will have a stucco finished with a Sahara texture, the color being this battleship gray. These are additional materials that the applicant provided, a floor plan for the proposed interior renovations. And this elevations sheet on the left showing the addition of a window and a door entrance to the rear of the building, also illustrating that the rear will also receive the stucco finish. Again, here we have the new metal cordon siding. These are the images of the site, the front image and the rear, with the proposed additions of the new window here and the new doorway along there. Additional images of the street view and properties across the street to give you a general idea of the development in the area. Staff conducts a analysis of this property according to the guidelines found in the River Corridor Master Development Plan. Not all of these checkpoints are touched upon, since not every case is going to incorporate changes to these. But in regards to this building, we did review it in regards to its colors, its materials, and the general site design and layout. Staff recommends approval of DD 22-04, 61 North Chadburn for a facade renovation and additional exterior renovations in the back, subject to 2 conditions of approval. The first be that colors, dimensions, and materials remain consistent, and the second be that the applicant shall obtain all required permits from the Building Permits and Inspections Division. Do the commissioners have any questions for staff?
Is there any type of signage at all?
No, there was no signage provided.
Can you bring up the picture again of the front facade? I don't understand
existing?
that metal part. Like where the recess is, that's gonna have some kind of metal skin on it? The metal
Yeah,
up the left-hand corner. What does that say? Metal,
siding detail. This up here?
yeah. I mean, does it look like it has rivets on it or something, or what exactly is that?
Yes, it says the fasteners will be exposed.
So we don't have any of the material to look at what it is actually? I mean, it's kind of hard to tell from that picture.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it there,
Yeah, that's the steel. We don't have images of the rivets themselves.
It's like a fairly standard cord and steel panel, something that you would see.
okay. So so that's the color it's gonna be, that brown? What-
Yeah, I believe it's going to be exposed, so it's meant to rust.
So the facade's going to be a neutral gray, and then you'd have the mahogany colored doors, and then the darker gray corten siding around the doors. And that's consistent with some of the projects like Twisted Root or whatever. Metal is not the primary material, but
Yeah.
it can be used as a trim material. Just
Okay.
if it's going to promote the aesthetics, and I think we believe in this case it will. Sorry, Ralph, go ahead.
Art Deco.
No lighting or anything?
None was provided.
And there's no lighting under the doors, under the,
No, the front of the building is just flat.
no, but I mean where the recess is, where the doors are, is there gonna be a recessed can or anything over the doors or anything right there? Go back to the other, right there. It looks like is that not recessed in right there? Go back to the.
It may look
the
like
side
that.
plan. Yeah, right there. See, they're
Yeah.
recessed.
Yes.
So is there not gonna be a light up above that? Right here.
As I say, Mr. Missouri, for any of those specific details too, our applicant is here today.
Okay,
If you want to ask Ms. Burke.
okay.
Okay, do any of the commissioners have other questions for the staff? If not, we'll move to public comment and invite the applicant to come forward. Please. When we get to the podium, if you don't mind stating your name for the record, that'd be great.
I'm Bria Burke.
Jamin Burke.
Okay.
Yeah, I just had a question. Is there gonna be any kind of lighting over the front doors? Is there
Yes, there's plans to have lighting, just like a porch light.
a recessed can or something like that?
Recessed or, a fixture of some sort.
Well, if it's a decorative fixture, we need to see what that is.
Okay, well,
So,
in this case, it'd be just recessed. but
okay,
that's-
okay. I
that's
mean, that's just,
what the requirement would be.
okay, I mean, it just wasn't on the plan, so I didn't. Other than that, that's the only question I have. I think it's a great plan. What's it gonna be, like condos or
Yeah, it's just gonna
apartment?
be a venue type, possible Airbnb
Yeah.
rental.
Well, it's neat. I did a good job on the plan.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
I'll just add a little comment. Well, not necessary. Yeah, it's Corten Metal, which I'm sure you know what that is.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay,
Okay,
just wanted to clarify.
It's okay. Anything else?
thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment at this time? Is there any further discussion amongst the commissioners?
Make motion to approve.
I'll second it. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. And that passes. Thank you very much, folks.
Sorry, y'all, can I get the motion and the second, please?
Motion to approve.
Okay,
And second.
thank y'all.
Okay, we're going to move on to DD 22-05-109 South Chadburn Street.
Yes, sir, this property is located mid-block along the 100 and 110s block of South Chadburn Street, being 0.172 acres in the downtown neighborhood, part of District 3. The property is zoned Central Business District. This is a sketch of generally the site plan, floor plan, and existing facade. The improvements are planned to be done over a stretch of time, phased in phases. And so the applicant has sent me an email. We had a conversation regarding this. Her concern is with supply shortages that she may not be able to retrieve exactly what she presents. And we have told her that if that is the case, whatever's presented today will be approved, and any minor deviations will come to our director. I'll move along here. So there's generally, the entire building was going to be refurbished. The existing canopy and sign, the new sign will require city council approval. You have the sign here and the existing facade, or rather the proposed front entrance. Here are additional views of the proposed building. And here we have the material list. For the downstairs paint, it'll be the bare cracked pepper color. Let me see if I can get to that. Here at the top, on the right side, or on the left side. The downstairs paint will be a mineral shade from bare. Sorry, it is over here. That's the window trim with a bronze finish. The doors will be wood tone with a medium brown finish, or rather the doors will be fiberglass with a medium brown wood tone. The tile is going to be an emerald green. It's not showing up nicely on the projector. It really is an emerald green, and there will be in a hexagon shape. You have the grout color, alabaster. The canopy ceiling will be the same color as the downstairs paint. The canopy roof is that dark gray, and it'll be a PVC material. As far as the lighting, you'll have the temperature there in Kelvin, 3,000 to 3,500, that being somewhere in this range here. The canopy wrap itself will be the same color as it'll actually be the mineral color, the same color as the canopy ceiling. Here's additional information about the windows, the trim and the side, the front and the side trim. Lastly, the exposed brick requires repair, and so mortar will be applied. Then you have the window planters will be a cracked pepper color, the same color as the downstairs paint. Here are zoomed in images of the materials and colors. Here are images of the site as it exists today. The front view, the street view of the front doors, that exposed brick, views across the street, across South Chadburn Street. Since this building is in the downtown overlay zone, staff conducts an analysis using the River Corridor Master Development Plan. And thus, staff concludes, recommends approval of DD 22-05, located at 109 South Chadbourne Street, being 0.172 acres, subject to 3 conditions of approval: that the colors and materials remain consistent with what was provided today, that the applicant shall retain or obtain all required permits from the Building Permits and Inspections Division, and that the applicant shall obtain City Council approval for the public right-of-way encroachment for the canopy structure and signage. Do the commissioners have any questions for staff?
Can you bring up the front facade again?
The proposed?
And so they're gonna sandblast all the brick down, get it back to the original? Is that the plan on the upper part?
Yes, I'm the applicant.
Okay.
I think he was a little confused on the brick part.
If you could, I'm sorry, we're recording, so if you could come up to the microphone.
Yes, is that okay? Hi, I'm Amy Zetson, I'm sorry to interrupt. There's no repairs needed to the exposed brick. The plan is to expose the underlying brick, which seems to be in fantastic condition, surprisingly, and expose the underlying brick. If we are not able to do so, if the mortar is, if it's too deteriorated, then we will paint in a manner that matches the exposed brick as close as possible, close to what Fuentes has done on their building.
Okay. Yeah, because there's a new process, I mean, with our board, you're not supposed to use sandblasting techniques on it because it deteriorates the brick, but there's a new process that's out there now that'll take that paint off, or it doesn't damage the brick at all. You can look into that.
I've left that up to North Star. They're the ones that will be consulting me in this whole process.
Yeah.
I don't know what technique they'll be using. I'm no expert there.
Okay.
But I assume it'll,
So you will be painting the brick if it doesn't clean up?
yes,
to match
correct. We're not going to leave it the dark gray. We'll leave it more original.
Okay.
And on the sign itself, we're not planning on changing anything yet. We just wanted to give the board an idea of the end result. Because the upstairs still will take so long to complete. We're not sure what the end result will be, but we do plan on doing the right-of-way encroachment application after DHRC.
I think it's going to be a great addition to the block.
I hope so. Downstairs is being rented by a barcade right now. They're doing renovations, and I've not actually seen their progress yet. I know my dad has. He's back there. He's my representative while I'll be out. Upstairs will be converted to lofts, industrial style, sort of hipster lofts, I would say, which there's still a lot of planning to go into those, but that's the plan. Thank you.
It's great looking.
Thank you.
Okay, do any of the other commissioners have questions for the applicant? And if not, any more for staff before we actually formally move on to public comment? Do you have any other questions for staff? Okay, so we will go ahead and open up for public comment if there's any. There being none, and if there's no more discussion of the commissioners, we can hear a motion.
I make a motion to approve as presented.
Okay,
Second that.
okay, we have a motion and a second. Did you get those recorded? Oh, good.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. That passes. Thank you very much. And we'll move on to DD 22-06, 13 East Tuig. And turn that over to staff.
This is DD 22-06, located at 13 East Tuig Avenue. Property being 0.207 acres, mid-block. It is in District 3 in the downtown neighborhood. The property is zoned Central Business District. This is a sketch of what the building is proposed to look like. The improvements include extension of an existing awning, shown here. The existing awning cuts off around there. Repairs of the brick facade by applying mortar to the holes or cavities in the brick facade, as well as painting the brick white. And the applicant has provided 3 different shades of white for you to approve. However, staff, in the staff report, there was a note which is recommending that the commissioners discuss the proposal to change the color with regards to the existing site and the site layout. This is the canopy material for the proposed extension of the canopy. An applicant has provided 2 renderings, one showing what it would look like on a white building and the other showing a different canopy, but it being on a red building, which is the existing color of the building. These are the white colors provided by the applicant, as well as the mortar mix that will be used. These are images of the facade of the building as well as the rear of the building. The rear of this building is visible from the next block over. These are street view images of the site. So as you can see from the general area of this site, it's generally open. Most of these lots behind this building, it's relatively open, and across the street there's a parking lot. So that's the general nature of this area. Again, staff concluded its analysis, noting that there's no changes to the building structure, its colors, as well as the extension of the awning, which I forgot to mention. You can see it here. It cuts off about there. It's proposed to be extended to its original length. Some time ago, the applicant mentioned to me that the awning did extend all the way. So staff recommends approval of DD 22-06 at 13 East Tuig for facade renovations, as well as the only improvement to the sign, I forgot to mention that, is that the applicant will repair the LED bulbs in the light. There was no other proposed sign rendering, so the applicant may have to come back to DHRC depending on the size of the sign for additional approval for that. Today, we're just approving the conditions of the report, the third of which being that the sign and canopy structure receives city council approval for the public right-of-way encroachment. The first 2 conditions are the same as all the other reports. Colors and materials remain consistent, number 1. Number 2, building permits from the Building and Permits and Inspections Division. Are there any questions for staff?
I have a question. Can you bring back the picture of the front facade? Is the whole building going to be completely, right there, is it going to be completely white, or are the headers and the window stools going to be painted black? It looks like it's 2 different colors. So what's it going to be?
The applicant told me that is not really color, that's part of the window design, that it's like a metal
Well, no, like
component.
right here, see underneath the stool of the window on the upper. Look, go back to the painted picture. Right there. See how it's red and black? Is it going to be white and black, or is it going to be all white, the building?
The entire building will be painted white.
So they're not going to two-tone it like that?
Looks like they
Well, I
don't.
think those.
That's right.
the-
Huh?
The rendering looks like they're leaving it dark.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're painted.
those pieces above the window,
Yeah, those are
below the window,
stone,
those little
yeah.
rectangles those, our understanding is will stay the same as they are today. So what's red in this picture
Black.
will become white.
Oh, okay, so.
But if it's black,
okay.
it'll stay black.
Okay. And then the awning, is it gonna be black and white or just black?
Just black. That's
Okay.
the exact awning cloth that'll be used.
Okay. The only issue I have with those paint colors is they're showing a high gloss finish, and I just don't see that downtown. I think it needs to be a matte finish or a satin finish, because it's gonna show every defect in that brick. Plus, it just doesn't go, it's not consistent with everything else downtown. Everything else is more of a muted, earthy tones, and if we just have this white, and the color that they picked is, to me, is chalk white. Do you agree?
I don't think
It's
glossy.
too white. You know, it needs to be a matte finish or a satin and
I
then,
like white. I just.
Yeah, I think it's
soft,
pretty.
the
It needs to be softened
High
up.
gloss is probably not a great
yeah,
idea.
that's my only,
So is the tone of the color right?
Colors, either of any of those, I mean, yeah. Are they asking for
yeah, are we supposed to
guidance
pick
on
the
those
color?
whites? I'm a little confused. Are they gonna, maybe put up samples of those themselves and pick one, or are they wanting some guidance from the commissioners?
Yes, they're requesting guidance. Because the applicant himself was
Okay,
not sure if the color would be approved, the color
Okay.
change.
could you pass those back when you're finished?
I just think it needs to be a satin finish,
Yeah,
something
a matte,
not
yeah.
high gloss.
And if you guys could just make that a condition
It even
of
says
your
highly reflective.
approval.
Okay.
I mean, it just, yeah.
Is the applicant here?
No, I don't believe he is.
And I've been asked to remind everyone to make sure you're speaking into the mic. Some of it's
Oh,
hard to pick up
sorry.
on the video.
I think my personal opinion is that pure white's kind of the softest of the three. What do you think?
You're the expert.
No, you are too.
So I'm not familiar how the colors work. Could he just get the same color in a matte finish?
Yes, you can get any,
Yes.
yeah, you can get any
I
sheen.
agree.
All right.
Okay,
Like
Not
pure
think
white.
that a matte finish would attract dirt, though. 'Cause we
No,
painted ours
no, like a
matte.
satin. Usually,
Yeah.
on the
A
outside,
matte
we
finish.
paint them satin. You just don't ever do a high gloss finish like that.
Right, satin would be much better than matte,
Yeah.
because matte
Well,
attracts everything.
it depends on the manufacturer. Some people call it semi-gloss, some people call it satin, some people, but
flat is
it's,
the lowest sheen.
yeah, it's just one step above flat. So,
Okay. Anybody else have anything for staff? And is there any public comment on the matter?
Del Velasquez, downtown San Angelo. Johnny Castillo is who owns this building, and he will be, I'm just going to say this, and I'm not speaking on his behalf, but he owns the Fat Boss business. And he does great work. I don't know if you've seen some of his buildings that he's taken on around the city, and he does a really outstanding job and is very meticulous about what he does, and I'm sure that he's taking the same energy and effort to create this project here.
I think it's going to be gorgeous.
yeah, pretty.
No question.
All right, thank you. Any other public comment? All right, is there any other discussion amongst commissioners? Then I guess I would ask if you guys want to make it a condition of approval that it not have the high sheen, or do you just want to make it as a suggestion for staff to pass on to the owner?
I make a motion that we approve with the stipulation that it's a matte or satin finish with this pure white color.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. You just need to add that stipulation. Are we good to vote? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same? All right, we'll move on. Let's go to RC 22-03, 416 South Oaks.
This is a property outside of the central business district, in the downtown neighborhood, no less, 0.207 acres. It is actually zoned heavy and general commercial. The vision plan is commercial. This is a sketch of the proposed additions and renovations to the building. It includes a canopy and an awning structure, a trees that will be outside of the right-of-way. And since this building is not in the central business district, the trees themselves don't have to be approved by DHRC. Do I have that right, Jeff?
Sorry, that's correct. The trees would need to be approved by the DHRC. The brick pavers would not, because the brick pavers are flat work in the right-of-way. So they would actually probably want to coordinate that with city engineering separately. But the trees you can't approve because it's considered landscaping in the right-of-way.
So other renovations include painting the building, as well as extending, or in the application it mentions that there's brick underneath the existing building material, so that the metal that covers the building will be removed, exposing the existing brick. The left side of the building will be finished in stucco. Here we have a sketch and a site plan. And these are the colors that were brought forward in the application. The right side of the building will be this rockwood terracotta color. The stucco finished building is going to be a bird's eye maple. And the gutter system will be a billiard green. These are the proposed trees. This is LED fixtures, mechanical specifications of them that will be placed on the exterior of the building. Just some additional technical specs. These are pictures of the site. That portion of the sidewalk that's been torn up is proposed to be renovated. And you can see the metal structure that I was referring to, the R-panel type metal. So this alleyway, in the sketch rendering, it shows that the brick will eventually reach up to this point. On the right, you have an image of the street view facing east. Here are images of the properties across the street, which are part of the Old Town Historic District, all of which have been renovated. The purpose of this project is to match that and to create a gateway entrance to the downtown of San Angelo. This property, not being in the central business district, is still part of the river corridor. So staff's review concluded recommending approval of RC 22-03, 416th South Oaks for exterior improvements being 0.110 acres, subject to 3 conditions of approval. Number 1, colors and materials and dimensions remain consistent. Number 2, building and permits shall give the permits for the required construction. And number 3, that the applicant shall obtain city council approval for the public right-of-way encroachment of the canopy, structure, and signage.
Raphael, can you put up the main rendering that had the colors and the materials? Yep.
Okay, any questions for staff?
It looks like the metal pole's coming out in the front. It's not in that picture. That pole that was in the front of the building.
The applicant is here, so any specific questions can be directed to him.
Okay, if there are no more questions for staff, let's open it up for public comment and invite the applicant to come forward.
Stacia Hughes.
And I'm Lee Pfluger. And thing doesn't move. I'll move it down. How about that? Very short people. Okay, David, what was your question about that?
On the original plan, it shows a metal pole in the front. On these, it don't. Y'all are gonna take that out?
Weren't really planning to.
Oh, well, it's off on, let's see right there, right there.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, on your drawing, it shows it gone. Is that coming out?
We weren't planning on it. It
Is that a city
could.
pole, or is that, wonder what that is? I mean, it looks better without.
That's a good question.
It looks
Looks
like
better
it had a
without it.
light on it at some point.
Oh, okay.
There is not a functioning light on it now.
Yeah,
We don't have lighting proposed to go on that, not saying that we could not do something like that, or if it would be easier just to take it out, it would be easier to take it out.
Really hadn't addressed it.
just
Henry
curious.
didn't.
To my knowledge, there is no electricity running overhead to it, and it doesn't look like in the picture either.
Yeah, it looked like at one time it did.
Might have been signage.
Some of the mixes in between the alley, where that metal is right there, inside of that is just wood lath.
There is no brick
So we're-
underneath that.
There's no brick underneath that, as mentioned earlier. It'll be stuccoed. And our idea, David, is to do the same thing that the other lady talked about, which is we're gonna wash the front of the building, try to get back to an original color of the original brick with this new product that you're very familiar with. And then paint the building on the side, which is, we think is that color.
That rockwood terracotta.
We would prefer to have it look like an original brick than a painted brick. However, we'll go with painted brick if that's not salvageable. The other building that's right beside it there, that you see right here, is metal clad. Don't know why they metal cladded. It is a brick building. It's not a stucco building. Hopefully we can do something with that that's gonna give it some character, but they wouldn't have put that metal on there if there was, if it was any way salvageable with something cheaper than metal, so.
Mr. Pfluger, we had a question for staff. I think we were clear, but just so you're clear as well. On the side where the metal clad is, that's going to be removed. I think we all agree it's brick under there. In case that brick is damaged, I guess you would repair those holes or fix that somehow?
Oh, definitely. No, it's gonna look first class.
Right, okay.
Obviously, what we're trying to do, we're trying to get Howard Taylor off my call button. He's consistently, since he fixed across the street, been on me to start the renovation of this and to make a quarter that would hopefully, if the world ever looks that way, the dream is to have a roundabout down there where that car is to the right at Love Street, where it's so big in there, is to put a roundabout that to cut the volume of traffic down and to make cross traffic. The museum has just bought that big two-story building right at the end of this street. And they want to renovate that. They also want my property next to it on the other side to build some sort of museum adjunct facility and to make crossing of the street right there in that huge intersection more palatable, a little safer, let's call it that way. That's more than you ever wanted to know, but, you know, we got to dream long-term in order to make something happen.
Very attractive.
Yeah.
Gonna look good. Excited. Thank you.
Okay, is there any other public comment at this time? And if there's not, we can have further discussion amongst the commissioners or motion.
I'll make a motion to approve with conditions of approval.
Second that?
I think our brand-new commissioner seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Moving right along, we'll go to RC 22-02, 320 South Oaks.
All right, good morning, Commissioners. Jeff Fisher, Chief Planner. This is our last case today. 320 South Oaks. Let me just get ahead here. So this is the property. This is the Texas Farm and Ranch Museum. It's located downtown. To the west is Twisted Root and a number of other projects. So this is in the river corridor property. It's not a historical property, but it is next to the river, so that needs to come here and do an approval. 517 West Tuig Avenue. So there was an existing fence, and there's a history on this, so I'm going to be very brief on the history, but in 2004, before it was the DHRC, it was just the River Corridor Commission, and then the historical was separate. The River Corridor Commission approved a cedar wood fence, which, according to our searching on historical aerials, was never actually put in. And then in 2007, there was another request again for another go back to a wooden fence again, which wasn't put in. Right after that, there was an amendment by the planning director to allow a split rail metal fence, and some of those materials were found at Neff's Park. So it was kind of, even though it was metal, it was a nicer metal material. It was kind of historical, and so that got approved, and that's what you see out there now. So what the applicant wants to do, two things today. He wants to move that existing fence, which is where it says current fence location, along the east side and along the south side, which is city property, because his lease is up, and move that to the blue area where he owns the property. So the front fence, which is already facing South Oaks, isn't going to change. So we're just talking about the south fence that's going to be pushed up, and then the east fence is going to be pushed over. And so it's just basically a backward L that we're looking at. He wants to, it's 5 feet tall now, he wants to add, go up to 8 feet, but he wants to, right now it's just got the split rail and it's see-through. He wants to enclose it with galvanized metal, our panel. And so we'll move forward with our recommendation on this. This is looking at the property east, and then this is southeast. So as where that sidewalk kind of curves on the second picture, right about there is where the city property begins and where's his ends. So that, you can't really see it from here, but the fence is kind of further down. He's going to push that back to match the front fence. Okay, so I kind of gave you the background on that. So the current metal fence was approved in 2007. That's where we're at now, and now he wants to add onto it. He also wants to add on some plywood paneling for art murals. So there's kind of two parts. So let me just go over the first. So looking at the galvanized metal, so he's increasing it to 8 feet and then tacking on those panels. We don't believe galvanized metal is an appropriate material, especially for fencing. Again, I know with Twisted Root and some of the buildings, there is some articulation of metal if it's used as a secondary element, but not the entire thing. This is something we would see more in an industrial area or a manufacturing area. So we are willing to work with the applicant in different options, but staff's position is not to recommend approval on this. Also, the color is very bright and kind of glossy. I think the split metal fence, as you saw in those other pictures, a little more of a dark neutral gray, kind of blends a little better in that area being so close to the river. And then over time, as he wants to open that up for art murals, which is not subject to your review today because it's private property and the Public Art Commission only looks at public art. But nevertheless, he wants to have those plywood panels painted white that would go over the metal. So over time, you're not going to see the metal fence anyway. We're not in support of that either. Plywood can deteriorate over time. I know they're saying here resists exterior weathering, but I'll let some of you all with more experience in that area may want to weigh in a couple minutes. But so we're not really in support of that either. Art is wonderful. We've got it all over town. These are some examples the applicant provided, but most of it is already painted onto a building. It's not usually something that's got on boards that are then attached to a metal fence like that. So I think we're certainly in support of more public art downtown, but just this probably isn't the right attaching it onto those boards like that, onto that surface is the issue. So Eric's a good man. We're certainly willing to work with him and find some other solutions. So we are recommending denial of the case, RCC 2202, based on that rationale. And I'm going to open up to y'all and any public discussion on that.
So I have a question. So the actual fence doesn't front South Oaks at all. It faces the river. correct?
It does, this,
In the
so,
back, and then it's the back, so it's the east. It'll be the south, and then the east side of the
Yes, sir.
property?
The
'Cause
front
right
fence
here,
will
you
stay the
don't really
same.
see it. That's the front on Oak Street, right?
yes,
Okay, so it's actually going that direction,
that's right.
yeah.
Even when I stood at the sidewalk, I probably should have gotten a little closer, but it is
Yeah,
very
so
hard.
you- so
It looks
really,
exactly like that,
You
though.
don't really see it, it's gonna face the river. That makes sense. I'm just trying to get my bearings straight on it to see what it looks like, and then it's the back part of is that correct? Is the metal just going on? No. Between the two properties that he owns across the river and right there?
The south and the
Not
east.
the back side.
No, the south and the east. So if you're looking, let's look at the first picture where it says Farm and Ranch Museum. There is a fence, kind of where that silo or that, whatever that thing is in the back.
Yes.
There is a fence there, so that's gonna be metal.
Metal.
And then to
then
the
the right
south,
side.
that's right, just those, like an L shape. But the
Yes.
front that you see is not gonna change.
Yeah, okay.
But I think the problem is if again, I should have got a better picture, but if you're walking down Oaks, you can, at some point, you're gonna see the south fence. And like I said, if you go right up to the property, you're gonna see especially when the murals come on, or the metal
How tall
gets
is
on.
that fence?
5 feet,
We're gonna be 8 feet.
yep.
Wow. Okay.
Any more questions for staff? Okay, then let's open it up for public comment, particularly if the applicant's here and wants to come up and speak.
Good morning, Eric Agamar. Actually, and I think part of this got lost in translation as far as it being L, it's going to be 3 sides, the front as well. And this is in a few parts, I mean, because there's increased vandalism downtown with everything that's starting to come down. A bunch of kids are starting to hop fences and stuff. We are losing that lease with the city. That is not going to be renewed again, and so we're having to push this forward. And that machine there, that's a huge vintage diesel machine that ran the power supply house in Weatherford. And so we're going to have to push that back onto our property line versus the city's line where it is now. And we're being forced to remove the fence that's there and move it back to our property line. And so it's kind of weird the way it looks now because you can't really see where that fence is going to be, except on that visual. Kind of on that there. The blue line will be where the fence is. And it will go back to the building, as you see in the front, that will be increased to 8 feet as well.
So you're talking right here in front of that machine, that's gonna be 8 foot
That will
too?
be 8
What about the gate? All of
That
that?
will be 8 feet.
All of that'll be 8 foot.
And the idea of this was, we've seen it in other cities where they brought I hate to use the word graffiti, but it's the kids, it's like Central, the junior high and all that, the campus where they paint on those walls. They're redoing that, and there's some really great art there. But we wanted to bring more kind of all kind of culture flares to it for downtown. Have part of these 4x8 plywood, and it's not plywood, it's that painted wood that's on the mosaics that they put downtown, all those.
It's like that exterior.
Yeah, and that's really good stuff because they put it on there to last for many, many, many years. And we can go corrugated if y'all don't like the R panel, or we could just paint the tin like they painted some of those buildings. I know a lot of these towns are kind of going back a nod to the vintage side of that style design, and so that corrugated metal is kind of cool, and there's a lot of things on other towns, Austin and stuff, they're using downtown with corrugated metal, and it really looks pretty cool. And we were going to bring these 4x8 sheets of, all painted plywood, this plywood signboard, because it's sealed all the way around. And we were going to put clips so you could have whatever artist was going to paint whatever design, a mural on there. And you could clip it in there, and then once it gets old or whatever, you just take it, unclip it, and you put another one in it. And so what I always say is kind of fresh.
Is the farm and ranch sign gonna stay? Is that gonna stay?
We were just thinking about keeping that because it's kind of a nostalgic kind of thing now. It's kind of cool because downtown is old historic farm ranch kind of stuff, so we would probably keep it, put lights on it, or what have you. But we would keep since we're no longer going to do a farm and ranch museum, so to speak, it's just going, the inside is going to be things that we work on for either it's buildings or whether it's equipment. It's a repair shop still. And so it's operated still as a repair shop on the inside and so forth. But you would not see through it because of things that are going to be in it, since it's no longer, we've been revoked on our lease for the farm and ranch. So we have to haul all that, get it all out. And so it's just going to be, in a way, this is also blocking what's going to be unsightly, what we put in there, whether it's tractors or trailers or, you know, whatever we're working on at the time. No one wants to see that through the fence we have there. So it was really great to use that fence at the time when it was given to us, so you could see the farm equipment and tractors and all that stuff. So, but since that's not going to be there, this is our next best step. And we figured, well, we can beautify it with putting art and murals on the outside of it. And it's kind of a neat contrast between, like, okay, if you don't like the art panel, we can do the corrugated metal. And it's really nice, and it's in the way it's kind of shiny, but it's, you know, you look down the river down there, and the river's really shiny there, and it's kind of blends in with that look and that design. So we're like, well, let's just make that, we could wrap it with a border around it, of a green color or what have you on some of these other fences that are downtown. But, you know, the art would be cool because we could put lights on them at night and it would just shine. So when you're walking down there, it's really dark at the way it is now in the park area when it's nighttime.
Do you have any objection to, my issue is just 8 foot tall. Man, it's tall.
Well, if we did 5 or 6, I mean,
Would
it's,
you object to making it shorter? I mean,
well,
I have
it's,
a problem with that. It just seems like all I'm gonna see is this giant wall.
well, the pieces, if you put the pieces of art on there, the 4x8s,
Yeah.
it's gonna look really weird and jagged. But we were thinking, well, just make it all, continuity-wise, keep the same visual look, and if you painted the art on it, it's not gonna be as
I don't
intimidating as
understand. What do you mean go up, and what do you mean by going up and down?
well, if you just build a 6-foot fence and you have an 8-foot piece of plywood sticking
Yeah.
up, you're gonna be sticking up, what, 4 feet?
Yeah.
So Eric, where's some of that equipment gonna go that you had out there now? Some of that?
We're being forced, we have to move it all off. We're being forced, so
Okay.
it's a court order kind of thing with the city, so. And that's why this is being pushed, trying to be pushed, I guess, because the Parks Department is saying they're gonna cut the fence down if we don't have this stuff off and remove it.
The reason I'm asking you is over the long term, the Farm and Ranch Museum kind of has some historical significance, and so you could still, and I believe in the zoning ordinance, I know we checked this at one time, the zoning does allow a museum there, so you could essentially bring that back in the future, whether you know, whatever you want to put in there, but that, you could do that. Even if you had to remove the equipment, I guess my point is the museum could stay as a museum if you wanted to.
Right,
And the
yeah.
sign, yes, sir.
And that was, you know, it looks kind of cool. It's got the plow up there, and it's also kind of an art-looking vintage look to it. But, you know, we're just figuring, well, what keeps the eyesore, what's going to be behind there out of the public eye? And we could also beautify it in a certain way on the outside.
I think
instead of having just all tin, you know, cover it with art.
Eric's worked on numerous projects. He's been really great to work with. We want to kind of open it up to you all on this one and just see what y'all's thoughts are, if there's something else maybe or an alternative design that he can do. I think staff's concern is just the galvanized metal. I think when we looked at his site plan originally and in discussions, I thought it was just the east and the south and not the front either. I think I have a concern with that, but at the same time, I like what he's trying to do. Just maybe if we can look at maybe some alternative materials or something. I mean, I think staff's open to suggestions as well.
So really, you need the privacy. You want the fence to be tall for the privacy in the back, to keep your equipment, stuff like that. And so the panels won't come right away. You want to put the fence up and then maybe later on put the wood on them or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, the price of this stuff is just exorbitant. I mean, you're looking at our panel and all this, so we're like, well, we thought about putting a smooth, slick style panel was thought of, and I was like, well, what if, you know, if it gets hit or bent, it's gonna be all this nice, smooth, glossy, and then you're gonna have dent marks from the mowers and stuff that go around it.
Yeah.
It's like, well, we could turn our panel around, that looks better. But, you know, we could, if not the galvanized, which I think is kind of cool, because that's where the city, you know, these art districts in these cities are kind of leaning towards. I'm like, well, that would work good here. There's and that was the, not the R panel, that was going with the corrugated metal, like is on the twisted root in a few places, but, yeah, the privacy.
Yeah, I think the R panel would look better.
What's that look like?
Huh? Well, it's got the square, it's square and then it has a flat spot. The corrugated is,
Yeah.
you know, that's more ranchy.
Corrugated, you know, in architecture, different, you know, used as an element of a structure, can look really good. But to have an 8-foot wall of it just continually, I'm having trouble with, I think.
Well, we could also do a color if it changes it up. I mean, something a little bit more earth-toned, neutral. You know, we could go that direction too. Because, I mean, once you border that with a different color, it really looks, it doesn't look like some of the other projects I've seen downtown.
I mean, even if you did it up 7 foot and then did a wrought iron top on it or something to break it up a little bit, so it just doesn't look so massive. I mean, that's
Right.
my only issue.
Well,
Or even if you just did sections of it and then, but you don't want to be able to see through any of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
so-
and the reason for the 8 was, and the art, you know, once the art's put on there, it breaks it up. It's like if you didn't, any of this wall was solid painted without the artwork, it'd just be like, well, that's kind of overwhelming.
Yeah.
But once you put a picture or some kind of artwork on it, it's not as,
Yeah, it won't be continuous artwork. It'll be a 4x8 and then a section of panel and
Right,
a four, yeah.
right. I mean,
Yeah, I
initially
agree. I agree
we
with
thought
that.
all like art and some
Yeah.
graffiti and all the culture stuff
Yeah.
on there. But then it almost looks like some of those walls in not our alley, but in alleys where it's kind of like, okay, this is just overbearing.
Yeah, I
Small
agree.
bits kind of breaks it up and it just gives it a different feel
Yeah.
to it.
What might be attractive is a combination of metal and wood. And I'm not designing it right, you know, but some kind of a combination of metal and wood where you would have, you know, a metal framing and maybe some horizontal wood slats or, you know, something.
We'd initially thought of the wood because, I mean, they're doing this, the horizontal, I like that look, but then you have upkeep and then you have the maintenance of it, and that starts wearing when it
Unless
gets
you
gray.
use Trex deck or something like that on it, so yeah, that'd last forever.
Right, but it's
I mean,
just.
you can even get that Xterra. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's what they make highway signs out of.
Right.
I mean, you can rip that stuff in. It comes in 4x8, 4x9 sheets, and you could make it look like that. And you put it on there, and it'll be there forever.
Right, and being
That
that
stuff is-
since we're kind of forced to do this and we don't
Yeah.
really have the budget to do it, that was the next thing. It's like, well, how much can we get for the money that we're spending
Yeah.
on this to get it done?
Yeah.
And also still look fairly good, because I mean, once you start engineering some designs, it all adds to it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great idea, great concept. I'd like to see a little more, a little more, maybe a little more information, a few more designs. I think that's a good idea with some kind of slats or something with a combination of metal. And I think being 8 foot would be fine, you know, if you break it up like that and not having, I thought it was all gonna be solid artwork, but I think it'd look good like that, having a few pieces here and there.
What if
Could
I mean,
we-
it's just a visual from 20, 30, 40 feet away, that design. What if we put that design on this board and put the board up there? I mean, you can make it look paint it to look just like that.
Are you talking about the slats or something? Or is that
Yeah, or
what
you could paint on this, you could put like, if it's you could have art, and then
Yeah.
you could have two pieces of the 4x8 signboard that's 8 feet wide.
Yeah,
So you could paint on there and make that look like the slats, and it would still be wood, it would look like it. It's just, my thing is like, if it starts weathering or gets dry or something like that, people will kick in it or whatever, and they start breaking it, and then that's an issue.
yeah.
Another neat way of doing fencing that's kind of coming is that corrugated metal run horizontally with your fence posts, top rail and bottom rail. It's very attractive. It seems to wear just as well as any other metal fence.
I mean, we could do it, just run in a different direction.
Framed in
metal
yeah,
iron
and
or
that
whatever, and then it
corrugated
corrugates with horizontally.
looks really good.
It's a little better.
Yeah.
It's just, it is a special area of downtown.
Mhm.
It is, I mean, it's the heart of the historic area, and that's a lot of fence.
Yeah, I mean, and we love the area, I mean, that's why got there years ago to do what we've done with the store and, you know, initially this. And so, I mean, our hearts are in it too. We don't want it to look bad. We don't want it to, you know, be an eyesore. But, I mean, if we could turn them sideways, I guess, certain parts and do part of it, that's kind of cool.
It is
Run it that way and then run the corrugated metal the other way, and then, I mean, we'd have to do
It looks
some-
good integrated
Break it
in
up,
a
yeah.
Breaks
thoughtful
it up.
way, rather than just put up. You know, it is like you say, you're seeing it in
Yeah.
other cities, and it does look good, but it's got to be artfully done, you know?
Right.
And
So we could break it up, the pattern, I'm sorry.
And I think painted black would be really cool too. Just the wood painted black, but that's just me.
Or you can get,
which
you
would?
know, you could do different
Like,
colors.
you're
Could,
gonna have posts
Oh, I thought they
to
were metal
attach
posts.
the,
Okay.
yeah.
could we do this? Could we table? I mean, I think Eric's got a
Yeah.
great idea. He's, whatever he does is gonna be perfect. Is there any way we could table this since we don't really have an exact plan and bring it back? I mean, I don't wanna delay you, but,
Right.
you know, we're still kinda up in the air of what you want it to look like and what we want it to look like. And everybody, you know, we wanted you to be happy with it and
Right.
make it affordable. And is that a possibility where we could just table this till we get a little more information and I mean, because I don't think we really have a set design of what we want to do.
What really is his timeline though? With the
I've
city
got,
breathing down
I
on
think
it?
I've got a couple more weeks for the court order for the eviction. So they're gonna start cutting the fence down if, I think in
I
another
hate for
couple
him to have to
weeks.
wait another, but,
Yeah.
you know, it's just, we're kind of,
Yeah.
everybody's got
Eric,
some great ideas.
last I
and
heard,
We
I
want it to
think-
look good.
I think the city's fence is gonna stay up at least for a little while, so.
What does the
that may
city
not-
plan on doing with that? Why is this change being made? Do we know?
I'd love to be able to negotiate talks to lease it in the future, you know, just pay a lease on it and just keep it the way it is, but I don't know if that's an option at this point, or if the city would be interested in talking in the
Yeah.
future, but.
Yeah, it was a lease, and we're not entering into a new lease for the property, so that property was originally part of the park there. And so I think the idea is eventually it may go back to that, but for now, I think we're just leaving it as is, so.
Okay.
So they're not gonna,
That's-
he's not gonna cut it?
I don't think immediately
Okay,
now.
Okay.
All right, so let's bring it back around to our purview here. Is that what you're wanting to
Well, I
propose, is to
mean,
table it?
that's what I'd like to propose. It's just, I don't think we've got it set down in stone what we want it to be. And,
Okay. So we have a motion to table it? You making a motion to do that?
Yeah, I mean, maybe we can work together, try to, maybe if you could bring us some different ideas, or we could, whatever, help you with it, or.
Do I have a
you
second
know,
for
Like I
that?
said, I don't want to delay you, but
Right,
we
right.
just don't really have anything set concrete.
Oh, hold on a second.
Well, I agree with Lisa, that's a big area. It's a big deal.
Yeah, we can't take a
So-
motion yet, I'm sorry. We're going to have to open it up to public comment for anybody else in the public that may have a comment. I don't want to skip anybody. Is there any other public comment? Anybody wants to come forward?
Just to ask Lee Pfluger, just to ask where we are on the agenda. Is this public comment about Eric's deal?
Yes, this
Or-
is about Eric's
Or the
deal.
public comment part
No.
of the agenda?
This is just about Eric's deal.
Okay, I'll be back later.
Okay. All right, any of the commissioners have any further discussion? Okay, so now you could make a motion.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to table this item until we can get a little more information from the applicant.
No,
and,
hold on just a second.
I'm sorry. Before we get lost in this, I just want to make sure that staff will coordinate with the Parks Department to make sure that there's a delay period as far as taking any action, since we're having to go through this process. Thank you.
And that was Del Velasquez, downtown San Angelo, for the record. Okay. Any other public comment?
I can't.
All right. Now you can make a motion.
Okay, I make a motion that we table this item until we can get a little more information from the applicant and staff.
I second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Okay, we'll see you next time, Mr. Eggermeyer. Thank you very much for participating. Now we're going to move to public comment, which is any public comment. And I'm supposed to read that we need to limit remarks to less than 3 minutes. Issues or concerns not on the regular agenda may be raised by the public at this time. Citizens should speak from the podium, address all comments to the dais, and begin by stating their name and address or single-member district number.
I'm Lee Pfluger. My address is 1215 West Avenue D in San Angelo, Texas. Thank you very much for listening to me. I'd like to tell you a little real-world story right now about what DHRC is doing to me on another project. I'm at a part right now where I'm trying to figure out about the infrastructure for the sign, the infrastructure for the sign of the Cactus Hotel. I've applied to Tiers. Tiers has changed their philosophy when you and I were on the board. They will not hear of my desire to engineer the structure or take any of the letters off of the Cactus Hotel because I don't have DHRC approval to check the engineering and the structure and to pull the old sign. I've got 10, 15 letters left up there to pull those off and then start working with the infrastructure. Because I have to have DRC approval before I can apply to Tiers. Before I apply to Tiers. In the old days, you used to apply to Tiers. Tiers, you got your funding, and then subject to getting DRC approval. As of 2 years ago, right, John? They changed that. You can't apply to Tiers until you have DHRC approval. And as you know, in the last couple of 3 or 4 months, DHR approval has been kind of flighty. So that's what I'm up against right now. I need to get the structure engineered. I've had a guy out of Abilene, a sign guy, whatever you call it, welding inspector. I've had SKG has been over there trying to figure out that structure is 90 years old. Some of the bolts in it have it's all bolted. It's not welded, which is good. We need to replace bolts. We need to figure out what the infrastructure is, and I need to pull those old letters off. My problem is I can't apply to to Tiers to get assistance funding to help do that because y'all haven't approved. I didn't know you had to. That's my fault. I should have heard that. I should have read the website. But that's what we're up against. Also, on this project I'm doing right here, you can't, I don't know if they're working with it or not, but until we figure out what color paint we have on the building, the planning department won't work on my, what do they call those approvals, the plans. They won't work on my plans, or I can't get my plans out until I figure out what kind of paint y'all agree to let me put on it. We are in a FUBAR here, guys.
I thought we just approved that.
We approved it.
Yeah,
You
we
just
approved
did.
it. Yeah.
But I've been working with this 6 months. I've had my plans in there,
Yeah, okay.
you know,
Well,
but
I mean, like I said, that's staff, that's not us.
Yeah,
I know, well,
Yeah.
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
that's what we're
Yeah.
working with
Oh,
right here.
okay.
Everything has to get the paint color first.
Yes.
Before you can get Tiers,
That's
be
right.
applied for
Yes.
Tiers funding.
Yeah.
And before you can work with your,
Yeah, well, the reason that, just to give you a little background, the
Okay.
reason we changed that from DHRC first to get Tiers, because a lot of people were coming in and going to Tiers, and then they would come to us, and we wouldn't approve what they were wanting to do to the building, so it was kind of fruitless to go to Tiers first and get the money for something that they're not even gonna be able to do. So it made more sense to approve it through DHRC and then go to Tiers, because now the facade that you want to do or whatever has been approved, and then now you can go for your funding. I agree.
It adds time.
Yeah.
And time's
Yes.
money. You gotta go through this month
Yeah.
or 2 months, whatever it
yeah,
takes
I
to get
agree.
approval or to
No,
get a quorum. And then you got 2 months over,
Yes.
another 2 months over here, and then you
Yeah.
gotta go to the city council, which is another month. I mean, it takes a long time to get anything
Yeah, I mean,
done.
that's-
If somebody
that's
wants to
kind of
spend
out of
some
our
money and help the
hands.
city.
That's-
I'm just saying,
yeah.
I'm just
I
saying.
agree.
We hear you.
I hear your
Yeah.
frustration,
Yeah.
for sure.
Okay, is there any other public comment? Okay, if there's not, is there a division report?
anything to add?
Unless y'all have any input.
I will note that we did add the Department of Interior color schemes to a link to that with informational stuff from the Historic Commission's, Texas Historical Commission website. So hopefully we're providing more information, and hopefully these meetings run smoother in the future. If y'all have any suggestions, please, I'm more than happy to listen and try and make improvements. So.
I would just like to say thank you for staff. I can tell things have changed. It's getting a lot more streamlined, and we appreciate that. It helps us make our decisions a lot easier. The more information we have, the better it is. So I appreciate that.
Also, you guys were working on getting this new binders with all the info in it.
Yes.
Still working?
Yes, sir. Yeah, we are in discussions of that and putting a packet together that's going to basically cover probably those things that you would normally look at, that staff looks at, so that you're informed when you make those decisions. And we should have that shortly.
And I believe Mr. Mazur provided us a copy of what he had, and so we're gonna compare that to what's in the ordinance and get those to you.
I don't know. I know it wasn't with you guys, but I feel badly and apologize to anybody who's applied and been waiting on this color fiasco, because at one point in time, there was a list of colors. They could look through and see, these are the ones that are approved, and you just picked one and went. How they were supposed to take a blind guess on the color, I don't know how that all got messed up, but we definitely need it fixed, because it's not. As he says, time is money, and we shouldn't be here and be a big burden on people trying to get something done, particularly in a part of the city that we spend so much energy trying to get people to invest in. But I do appreciate that you guys have made some steps in that direction. That's good. For announcements, I would like to announce that we have a new commissioner, and her name is Miss Lori Deckers, and we welcome you. We're glad you're here and willing to serve.
Lori.
Thank you. It's not too bad a hot seat all the time. We're glad to have you. If there's nothing else, then I'll announce the next regular meeting of the Design and Historic Review Commission is scheduled to begin Thursday, March 17th, 2022 at 10 a.m. right here in the East Mezzanine Meeting Room, City Hall, 72 West College Avenue, and we will call that adjourned. Thank you very much.